Hey, my name's Robert. We're with Line Creek Brewing Company here, Mentors4mil, and having a good time. And with two sidekicks today, Paul Martinez.
Hey, everybody.
And Kyle Neal.
How are you guys?
So, joined by a really cool guest, Jake Dukes, who comes from Camp Southern Ground. And we want to go into Camp Southern Ground because not a lot of people know, I don't think, very much about Camp Southern Ground. But before we get into Zach Brown, Camp Southern Ground, and the whole thing, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob. It's good to be here with you guys.
Well, man, you got like that whole DJ kind of voice going on.
The voice for
You're like the
podcast.
second guest we've had that like really rips it.
Yeah, I'll just join you guys every week.
There you go. Hey, that would be great.
Nice.
So this is Zach Brown's organization. So what is Camp Southern Ground? Give us a little background.
Yeah, great question. You know, we're really not a typical camp, to be honest about it. And it all started with Zach. He had this incredible dream and vision. He was actually a product of camp growing up in North Georgia, up in the mountains up there. Okay. And he went to a camp called Camp Glisten and was impacted by that, taught him leadership. He learned how to play guitar by chord there and just really turned him into the guy that he is today.
I had no idea of that backstory.
Yeah. So he's a camper. I mean, and then started as a kid and then went through in leadership and as a college kid. I mean, Bradley McIntyre, just talked with him on the phone. He hired him. So, you know, that was where he got his start. And he was telling everybody as a kid, like 14 years old, I am going to build a camp one day.
That's awesome.
You chase that dream, buddy. You know, go for it. And then, of course, you know, made some success in the music industry and has been able to make good on that promise. And so we're right over here in Fayetteville, Georgia, kind of a little nugget tucked away, 500 acres over there. And we've been kind of building. 2011 is when we got our start. And just kind of doing infrastructure stuff and getting roads, you know, cut in and waste sewage treatment plants built. And then we got our dining hall, our shade pavilion, and our lodge. And we got a tree house out there as well. It's a really, really unique place. But yeah, we serve kids and vets. So we have, 2 months out of the year in the summer, we have kids that come out, and it's an inclusion model camp. So when Zach went to camp, it was Camp Sparrowwood as well as Camp Glisten come together, and this kids with needs. And so Zach always wanted to build a place that included people with differences, and his whole conviction is that differences actually make us stronger and they connect us in deeper ways. And so it's all about like helping each individual identify their unique gift, magnify that in themselves and others to profoundly impact the world. So it started with that camping side, and you know, but Zach was also, he was a product of military family, so he didn't grow up in a military family. His friends had a lot of friends that, you know, came from the military. Their parents were involved in the military, and so he just saw it from the inside, what it's like to kind of be in that family unit of a veteran and what that unique place looks like. And so that, I think, kind of cast a lot of his personal growth and trajectory as a human. And you know, he's into all the kind of stuff that vets are into. He does a lot of hunting and he makes knives and, you know, all this, you know, he's an outdoorsman. So he was like, man, we got to do something. And it was always about the family unit. He's like, you've got this unit, right, when you go away and you're deployed, and that's your family, you know, while you're out there. And then when you come home, it's like, this family that I've got doesn't even feel as close as my unit. So what's up with that? And he's like, we want to create a place where veterans can reconnect and develop that unit mentality, you know, with their family. So that's something that Zach's been passionate about, and we just started thinking through that and trying to figure that out.
Did you guys ever go to a camp or anything when you were kids?
No.
Didn't? Okay.
No, not me.
There was a camp that I went to, and it was kind of cool because, you know, you get the breakfast, lunch, and dinner as part of it. They put you into teams. You get to meet new people and all that kind of swim.
I like how your highlight is like they feed you 3 times a day. Is there something we need to know about your childhood?
For 2 weeks.
But it wasn't like camping in the sense of, you know, camping like a tent.
Right.
But the camp environment was where, you know, you're putting like-minded people or people from different parts of the country together or the community, and you're having to build in teamwork or at least get to know one another. So it helps you at least in socialization when you go out into other environments. And it sounds very much like that experience was something that resonated with Zach.
Absolutely, it was. And I appreciate you bringing that up. You know, he grew up going to school and just didn't feel like that environment helped him learn and grow. And so getting to camp he realized this is the environment that allowed me to be who I am as a human, to accept me as I am, but also to challenge me, to help me grow in ways that I never would have in maybe more a traditional school setting. So that's one of his passions, is to create spaces like that for kids and for veterans.
When did you start it up here in Fayetteville?
So 2011, we got our nonprofit status.
Okay.
And then, built infrastructure through the next, really, 7 years. We did some pilot programs. We had a shade pavilion, which is an outdoor gym in some areas. We had like a backcountry camping, the half shell tents that we got out there. So we were trying stuff, testing stuff out and building until 2018 when we built our lodge, which is a 128 bed lodge. And once we had that, it was off to the races.
I did not know it was that large.
If you've ever been out there, like it's a gym. It's a hidden gym in Fayette County that you would never believe where it is.
I appreciate you saying that, Kyle.
It is a really cool.
Well, you've gone out there for work events.
For a work function, yeah.
So where is it within Fayetteville?
So Red Wine
Fayette
Road.
County?
Red Wine Road.
Yep.
Red Wine
it's
Road.
gorgeous,
Ebenezer
man.
Church, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, right there in between Red
I
Wine
have
and Ebenezer.
never. Well, I don't go down that way that often, but I probably would have. Can you see it from the road?
Whitewater Creek, no, you kind of have to get back in there.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Yeah, you never even know it was there. That's the thing. Like you could drive by it. You may have even driven by it.
Probably.
We do have a little sign, but if you don't know you're going there, you can drive right by it. But
So
once
I've
you
been
get
there
on property.
for Southern Flair, I guess the
Yeah.
Joseph Sam School Southern Flair event, and also a work Christmas party, and both times to just jam up.
Yeah,
Everything's
it's a
great,
little
man.
wild because things like our dining hall, like the whole ceiling is covered in Taylor guitar wood because Bob, he had all this secondary wood that he wasn't using.
that's awesome.
So Zach was like, "I'll take some of that." and he
Taylor
gave
wood.
us-
You're going to have
crazy.
people going up there and trying to cut pieces off the ceilings.
It's African sapele mahogany. Like it's but it's again, Zach has a way of getting people fired up about this mission. I mean, he's just got a gift for it. He talks about his passion here, and people come out of the woodwork, high and low, all in between. Everybody, they're like, I want to be a part of this. I'm going to give to this, and so. Yeah, I mean, he just has a way of mobilizing the most amazing folks.
So you called it a dining hall. You might have to change to a mess hall or a dining facility in order to get fully right.
Yeah.
I still don't think you would match that. I haven't been to very many mess halls where you had Taylor's wood up there. No.
Yeah, it's probably not something you should. Well, it's funny you bring up food because you do have a certain expectation of what camp food is supposed to be.
It wasn't fond memories though.
That's the point, right? That's the point. It's like this pizza. Is this actually pizza? Like, what is this? What am I eating right now?
Yeah, it was cardboard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is so. That's not what you're going to get at Camp Southern Ground. I mean, we've got a whole philosophy around food, which is food is critical to life. I mean, you are what you eat, right? We've all heard that. So food is fuel. It's the first level of what you're medicating your body with. So it's like if you don't eat good stuff, you're not going to get good stuff out. So that's a big part of all the programs.
Yeah.
We got an organic farm on site.
Wow.
It's true farm to table experience. And we got chefs. We got 2 chefs, sous chef. We got multiple staff who are really curating each meal. I have not eaten the same food twice over there at Camp Southern Ground. I mean, literally, it's 5-star quality type cuisine. So like that's a big part.
How are
of
you
what
so
we do.
fit and trim then?
That's it. They're feeding me great stuff over there. It's like So yeah, it's keeping my body energy going.
So when did you get involved? If 2011 is when it all kicked off.
So I started getting involved around 2017. Before I came to work with the camp, I was actually involved in faith-based initiatives. I'd been doing that for my whole life, ever since I was like 19 years old. And so I started a little nonprofit on the side of that. I'd recently left the church that I was a part of after a long time, and honestly was like kind of seeking like what's next, like didn't really have a whole lot of options either. I was just like, I feel like that chapter needed to be over. So it leaped into the darkness, at like 38 years old. And Zach was like, who's a friend, we'd known each other for a while at that point. He was like, hey man, come on over here. I want you to help me convene thought leaders, because we know that we've got a fantastic place. I'm going to build and design the best place, but we want to stand on the shoulders of others who are great and doing better than we are doing to glean the wisdom and insight. So that was my job, was to come in and convene these workshops, bring in experts in the fields of autism, music therapy, nutrition, all the stuff that we wanted to be great at. We knew that we needed the help of others to be able to do that. So that was my job, was to pull those folks together. And it was just contract. And then I did that. 2018, we had those workshops. We did 4 of them. And we got a great host of folks out there. One was a military community that we brought in of experts. And we realized that there's a hole that we could fill with our facility. We were thinking maybe we just host people there and like, just be like a retreat facility.
Yeah.
And we realized that there's a deep and desperate need to help and support veterans in the transition back home after they leave the military. And it's that, Joey Jones was working with me.
Yeah, I remember Joey.
We were kind of like spearheading this work together, and Joey was just talking about how the transition, obviously he lost both legs in Afghanistan, so that was a massive thing for him, but just how the transition was more traumatic than the deployment.
Yep.
And that's the case for a lot. Even if you don't lose legs, you've got injuries that are invisible that are just as severe that need to be addressed. And that was really where we decided we wanted to try and hit as an organization. So then they hired me to kind of help get those off the ground. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm sorry, you were
It's really cool. And I think like transition, like you said, you may have injuries that are catastrophic, but they say, and this is outside the military, the 3 most traumatic things that can happen to you in your life. You get divorced,
lose your job.
You lose your job, and you move.
Yep.
Well, you have to do all 3 when you get out of the military.
Absolutely.
Because you probably have literally had a divorce, but you're divorced from your whole family,
Absolutely.
your military family, and that, as you know, it's extremely traumatic. So then that just compounds everything else that's going on.
And you're isolated and you're alone. You go back and there's nobody to talk to. There's nobody who understands. I mean, the civilian population, of which I'm one of, we try and understand, but we don't. And, to have a community where you feel safe, supported, connected, there's resources there. I mean, gosh, like you're not alone, and that's what we really wanted to try and bring into the space, is a place of love, support, connection, but also some real answers to the difficult questions.
Yeah. So how do you find veterans for your program that are in transition? Is there another group that you work with?
So you probably know this as well as anybody else. Like, you're not just going to open your doors and veterans are going to walk through, right?
No, that doesn't work.
This just doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, like, if you're out there and you're talking about yourself, like, veterans are walking the other way. So, it is a challenge. And to be honest, the best way that we connect with the veterans in our community and beyond, because it's a national program. We're flying folks in from everywhere. And the best way that we do it is vets who've gone through. So we honestly, to even get started,
very cool.
We had to we had to lean on our own resources to be like, hey guys, will you just please come out here? Go through this thing, be my guinea pig, my science experiment.
Just dare them to. That's exactly the way to do it. Like do an old scout challenge. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I dare you to go through this program one time.
Do it for me, man. Just do it. They're going to fire me if I don't figure this out. So So Chris, you're going to meet him in a little while. He was one of the ones that was like, all right, dude, whatever, fine. So that was how it started. And then, word of mouth to word, vet to vet. And obviously we got a lot of ways that we're on Facebook and we do ads and we do, Zach talks about it at shows. So there's a lot of, kind of formal publicity that we do, but man, the best stuff is person to person.
Well, I think, a lot of guys have seen Zach up there playing with his guitar with various stickers from units across the country. And one of the main ones that stood out to me, because I'm an old 11th ACR guy, is when I saw the Black Horse patch on there, I was like, I want to contact Zach and find out the story about where he gets these patches,
right,
and how it comes about. It may be through these things that you're now describing and the networks and connections that he's gotten it, of how he's gotten it. But
he's super tapped into the veteran community. He really is.
And I don't know that, I think some veterans realize that, but one of the beautiful things that you and I talked about off air is the fact that he doesn't, it's not like it's him.
Right.
And hey, I've got a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit, and then you may discover it's Zach Brown's nonprofit.
It's like no shit. Zach Brown is behind it. Like at the end, it's not. It's never like put up front at the beginning, which is a really cool part.
And that was honestly like it's definitely not in a publicity thing. He's like he's not going to lead with it. And we ask him to talk at our own events, and he's like, I'll get up if you guys really want me to, right? But he's just happy to see it all unfold in the way that he originally, I think, envisioned it, just to see it happen. And that's the way he talks about it. He's like, I'm a conduit, I'm meant to do this. There's a God who's, given me this, and I'm going to steward this well. So he very much, kind of has this, I'm here to set a foundation for others to build on. He always calls this everyone's camp. Anybody who shows up, he's like, that's your camp. Like, get over here and tell us what we should do with it. He's incredibly open, humble. Yeah, he's the real deal. If he was sitting right here, we couldn't say all this stuff. But since he's not, like, we get to, and he's got the biggest heart for this. And I've heard him talk about it hundreds of times, and it brings him to tears every single time. So
amazing.
Yeah, man. He believes in it.
I really love that. You've got several different programs, though, I want to hit. So you've got a Warrior Week. So that's your signature program. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that's what Joey and I put together. Chris was on the pilot for that. This is it's a well-being program, essentially. And so it's actually a year long. We bring veterans out for that first week. And there's kind of this intensive environment, which all vets get and understand. I mean, we kind of base it a little on the training model. You know, vets understand immersion training. You know, this isn't therapy. This isn't, we're not kumbaya. And it's like we're actually getting involved. We're going after it. This is a restructuring, a retraining for that civilian environment. And, all vets are civilians. Like, they started out as civilians. So it's like, you know how to do this. But at the same time, it's all the things you mentioned earlier about how, Paul talks about this. There's these traumas you're going through. So I'm a different person now than I was. Mm-hmm. How do I reintegrate this person that I am into where I'm going? And it's like, vets are good at 3 jobs, right? Like, law enforcement, gun industry, right? It's like there's this pathway that veterans think that's where I have to go, and it's like, no, your skills are so complex.
Right.
Let's not do the disservice of your journey and your energy to kind of force you into this mold of what it looks like. So we're trying to blow that paradigm wide up.
That's perfect.
And send veterans out into every area and sector of society where we need them, because we need them everywhere, because they're incredible humans, and they've experienced kind of the worst, but also come through it and have learned lessons that they need to help all of us understand. It's that journey of wisdom. And what is a hero? I'm here to impart wisdom to others in my community. And that's what we want to help veterans go after that and bring that wisdom and that strength.
Well, it sounds like you're teaching them a lot of adaptability too. I think that's a lot of us forget. Like, we were just regular Joes before we joined, and then we learned how to do all these things that were really hard or very challenging. You can still do it. Just because you learned that thing and mastered it, you can do it again, and you can reinvent and go on to find new things.
Yeah, I mean, veterans are the best adaptability. So, like, we use strengths, Clifton strengths in the program. One of the strengths, they've got 34. One of them is adaptability, and veterans just naturally are high in that environment. I think that probably the shock, some of the shock for veterans, what I've heard from them is, everything in the environment that I was in was so clear. There was so much support. There was so much community. Like, I'm not worried. Maybe this happened, in a rare occurrence, but I'm not worried about who's behind me. I'm not worried about to the left and right. Like, that's done. We may knock each other out, but when we go for it, we're shoulder to shoulder, neck to neck. So that's not the way it is in the civilian world.
Right.
You don't know who's out to get you.
Everything is vague. Everything is vague. Once you go off post, nothing is black and white.
In all the wrong ways, it feels like.
Well, in the right ways and the wrong ways, but the feeling you get when you initially try to reintegrate to the civilian world is they don't understand. Everything is vague. I'm used to clear, concise. We need to get from point A to point B using this method. And at this point, we're going to switch methods, and then we're going to get to B.
Yeah.
You ever feel like, just tell me what to do? Somebody just tell me what to do.
I've asked people in my job right now, like, just give me the answer.
That is so true. Because you're so used to being told when to get up, where to be for breakfast, where to be.
I got it.
That's right. Reveille. I mean, everything is like set up for you. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get out and you transition and it's not there. But what I also want to break down, and it sounds like you really have a pretty good handle on the veteran space, is we got to break down the us and them mentality that's there between civilians. And so we get a lot of guys that say stuff like, yeah, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, but I wanted to serve, and we always stop. I'm like, no. Dude, you did something. The fact, don't think because we're different because we served or whatever. And I mean, we appreciate people saying thank you for your service and all of that. But the fact of the matter is that each of us had a role to do in life, and we chose this one. Yep. And that's about it.
Yeah,
and we need to break down those barriers.
I appreciate you saying that. I have one of my Marine buddies who I was involved in the bringing on of PATH, which we can get into in a little bit, helped start Warrior Week, but I got to be an instructor. And so in that PATH program, the philosophy is, it is training, and it's mostly combat veterans who are the instructors because they've been through it, right? Yeah. And so there's that connection. But there's a place for a strategic civilian as a part of that teaching and training cohort. for intentionally the reason you're talking about. It's that we're actually more different than we are, or rather we're more the same than we are different.
Yes.
And so how do we capitalize on the things that we have together? So one of the Marines, whenever he introduced me, he'd be like, well, here's Chris, who's a Marine, here's Adam, who's Army, here's Jake, who's in God's Army.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, okay, man, whatever. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll take it. So, but like that, I fought my own fight. It was very different than the fight that you guys fought. But,
well, and that's what, people say that, but when you get down to post-traumatic stress and depression and everything else, it manifests itself in very similar ways. And people I think that's where a lot of veterans find healing, is when they hear stories of civilians who've gone through some similar story. Maybe bullets weren't flying, lives weren't lost necessarily, but the impact and the feelings that they are, expressing or are seeing or whatever are real, right? It's not necessarily, oh, you didn't go to combat, therefore.
Well, not just that, but when you meet civilians and you interact with them, especially over a period of time, and you get a chance to see their grit, you get a chance to see their dedication to what they're doing, and they're experts in their craft, and you're like, okay, this is, like, you didn't serve, but you have these same values. I can count on you in the same way that I can count on somebody else that I served with. And I think you can only really get that if you spend the time together, and a couple hours or one meeting isn't going to do it. So being in that isolated environment, like, you don't really have anywhere to go. I presume, like, you're here. We're all here. So you kind of have to, it's kind of like being in a unit. Like, I didn't like everybody that I signed up with and that I went to basic with, and I didn't like a lot of the guys in the unit, but we were here, we had to make it work, and then you have to find their value on the team.
Yes.
So it gives you an opportunity to do that with civilians.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Warrior Path, what is that?
So it was designed by the Boulder Crest Foundation up in Virginia. They've been piloting it for years now, 2015 and before. And then
we're not familiar with that organization. So what is Boulder Crest?
Boulder Crest is an organization that their mission is also to support veterans as they transition, specifically around the areas of combat stress. So it's their whole philosophy and concept is post-traumatic growth. And so, which, you've probably heard the idea before, but they've made it a science of the things that, that can tend to break us. If we understand what they're for and how they can mold us, they can actually be catalysts for incredible growth and profound learning. And so you maybe hear this. I think the thing that illustrates is the easiest and the best is maybe with the VA. The goal of the VA, and this is not to necessarily knock that organization, but even any mental health, is to go 30% above. Like, I'm gonna end my life. Yeah. So like if that's down here at the bottom,
it's survival, not thriving.
Absolutely right. Yeah. And so post-traumatic growth is, if my mode of living was here, I can break through that into a better life using the right practices and systems and strengths. So that's what they were designed on. It's a training module. It's 18 months total in the program, but there's a 9-month kind of 90-day follow-on that's like, okay, this 90 days has got to be the best 90 days you've ever given in your life. And they train you for 7 days on how to implement these practices to build connection and community based, kind of the unit mentality. It's you've got 8 guys or 8 girls that are going through this together, and that's your new unit, and you're going to lean on them, and they're going to be your battle buddies, and you're going together to forge the safe and trusted environment that once you do that, you go back home and you work through the process of building a safe and trusted environment there as well.
So is there homework post kind of thing?
There's you get there, you're folks are kind of crawling in, right? And you make it, and every time I've run a path, which I ran the first 20, literally every time I had someone said this week saved my life. And they, the veterans don't say that, right? They don't tell you. Yeah. That's the thing, is like, it's real if they're not saying it to anybody. And that's the way veterans are. They're methodical in the way that they're like, how can I end this? How can I stop this pain? And every time by the end, that's what they're saying is, I've got a reason to live. And so, it's incredible. And then there's a 90-day follow-on that is critically important. We host calls. We're very involved. There's a whole online kind of learning portal that they're a part of, a community that's virtual and physical that they're locked into. So Boulder Crest started in Virginia They expanded Arizona, and then they started satelliting Florida, Georgia, Maine, other places. Now they've got over 10 facilities across the nation. Over 800 vets go through these programs a year. It's taken off. I mean, the Marcus Foundation, they got behind it, and so that really gave it legs. And they were asking the question, what's the best non-clinical program out there? And they found Boulder Crest, and they were like, that's the one we're getting behind. So they invested the money to validate 56% reduction in post-traumatic stress symptoms. That's the only number you hear. There's a bunch of others, but if you just hear that one, that's nowhere near anything else that's out there. So it's a critically important program. Chris can tell you more. He's lived it. He's experienced. He went through it, and it changed his life.
Wow. That sounds incredible. And I think that's one of the biggest things that veterans, and we've talked about a lot in this episode or these podcasts, is that they get medicated, heavily medicated. And, some of the things is that they're attacking, the physicians are attacking the symptoms, and they're trying to find ways to heal by doing different things like that, but they're not helping them. So to hear something like this that's not going in that direction, that's very, very
and I won't speak disparagingly against the VA, but Bernie will. So if you hear him talk about it, and that's the reason why he's done it, his goal is to put the VA out of business. So that's why he's investing into programs, because the same conviction that you just mentioned. It's like the medication's not helping. I mean, it helps some to a degree, but it's not what's going to heal the deep problems.
It has its place,
right?
But it's not the fix. It's not the answer,
right? It's a Band-Aid.
And some people need what they need, but it's so broadly applied, and that's the thing.
That's the thing. It's a broad stroke. It's the same treatment for me and you would be the same treatment. Well, obviously we have different trauma, but we'd get the same treatment.
Same treatment, right?
And that's not what medicine should be about at that point. It's polypharmacy. It is throw a pill at it, and hopefully this one will stick.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand how a chemical, like trying to right a chemical imbalance, what is that going to do for 11 years of trauma, or 10 years of trauma, or 25 years of military service, and all the things that you see? That the pill's not going to do that,
right?
And on the other hand, like a week in a program is not going to do it, but it's going to get you to the next step,
right?
And I think that's the key, right? Is how do you get to the next step?
Well, and it's about disclosure, and I think that's a big part of the program. Is you've got these warrior practices like meditation, you've got breathing, you've got disclosure, you've got service, you've got probably 30 practices that you learn through the program, and through these practices, what you realize is I've got the strength to build the life that I want to live. Now it's going to take work. Like I don't just get to wake up and like in that sense take a pill, right? Because that's a little bit.
But everybody's looking for the quick solution.
Right. There's no magic button. There's no easy button to this.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what it's based on.
Then you start bringing in the family into this, and this is an important factor I think that a lot of organizations maybe miss, is that the family unit is the way in which people can then sustain that post, So you really incorporate the family as well and have a session for that.
Yeah, and there's some real stuff around that, right? I mean, what they found is that parent, we have a week at camp for kids, Gold Star, Silver Star, White Star kids. And we've got a week for deployed kids, and we intermix that population all throughout the camp because we're all about inclusion as well. And then we saw that we wanted to do more. I mean, Zach from the very beginning, the family unit, that's what he was talking about. And so we've intentionally worked to bring about this family program, which is still we're still developing it, but it's this opportunity for a family to get together for a weekend. And oftentimes it's the alumni from our other programs who have said, I wish my wife or I wish my kids could see this place and understand what I experienced. And so we'll bring the kids in and the spouse in, and it's an opportunity for them to get together and talk through some of the things that they went through when they came through solo. Their kids get to go through the ropes course, so, they're shooting archery, and like they just physically on the grounds. Meal times are a big part of that. Zach's got a song called The Family Table. And so we're intentional. Like, how can you develop deeper connection? I mean, I can't count the number of times, as a dad myself, I got 5 kids, and how easy it is to just blow through dinner, like where you're stuffing your face and on to the next thing, right? And it's like, what if we took that opportunity as a chance to pause and really, really connect with each other and ask some deeper questions about the day? And, at first it's like, hey, how's your day? Fine, right? And it's like, so how can we make a game into this? And so that's a lot of what we're exploring with families together. It's, hey, let's get to know each other. Like, that's, let's lean on each other. Let's share. Let's be honest. Let's be real. And then there's moments there too where the spouses can get together and, we're talking through communication and how do you miss each other and parenting and how do you understand your kids? And, you get that one kid who's just so pushy and like, is just in your face all the time. You got the other kid who's like another parent walking around, it's like taking care of everybody, tending everybody's needs. And it's like, how do you give each of those kids, what they individually need, deal with your own stuff at the same time? So we like to go through that kind of stuff and just the importance of that family and that community, what happens there. So I've had a chance to be a part of those as well, and it's an incredible weekend.
Is there anything in that family program that helps kids understand why, dad or mom may be the way they are?
Absolutely. And honestly, it's an opportunity for mom and dad to tell their kid a bit why they are the way they are. Because these are conversations that don't tend to happen. And some of those statistics that you probably have maybe or may or not be aware of, but, kids of parents who are in the service who commit suicide are highly
50% more likely than a kid from a parent who committed suicide that's outside of the military.
Yes.
Like it's a staggering number.
Yes. Wow.
Like if one of us kill ourselves, it's generational.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Although suicide is a generational thing anyway, the research shows, but it's even more so when it's talking about the veteran community.
Yeah, and you can assign that statistic from suicide, and you can take it and you can apply it to other things that someone might be dealing with as well. If there's abandonment, if there's whatever it might be, that those things can tend to be generational as well. So if mom and dad are dealing with it, you better believe the kids are dealing with the same stuff. So it's an opportunity for open conversations around those topics, but at the same time being careful because you want to begin to normalize some of those conversations without kind of re-triggering the trauma, right?
Yeah.
So it's a safe place to kind of be able to do that, to be open about it, and then to begin to discover, hey, how can we approach this and go after this together?
Now, do you guys recommend, even though it might not be parent-led, to have that conversation? Are you guys recommending to have that conversation?
Like just at the house today? I mean, so a big part of what we talk about in the program is how to have those conversations.
Okay.
Right? So I don't know if I just jump right in on those conversations, but one of the things that we do is in the programs we actually model. We kind of, it's almost like a role-playing, like how to do this well. Because, the first time you do anything, you're probably not going to do it well, right? So if you try and jump into a conversation, we always say this, like, hey, you have the advantage of knowing that you want to, like, you've got the tactical advantage here, right? So you want to set the stage so that you can ensure success. Mm-hmm. And so if you kind of just fumble your way into that, I mean, you never went into that combat in that way, right? It's like you had a plan and a strategy. You pre-planned, then you talked about what you're going to do, then you went and you did it, and you debriefed afterwards. So it's like you want to kind of practice the way you want to do it. Yeah. So if there's some elements of that, and you could do that with a therapist or a friend or a community. I mean, that's what we're trying to help veterans build, is that community where they can have that practice with each other before they're kind of in theater in that way.
Man,
so,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. No, that's really great. And so now we're going to get a chance to talk to Chris. But before we move on to that, I did want to highlight one of the reasons why we're here at Line Creek Brewing is because you guys were a part of the One Team One Fight.
Man, that was so cool.
And did you get actually one of the ones to participate in the brew? Okay.
Yeah, I was there when they were doing the brewing and the canning. Yeah. And got to taste the beer. It was delicious. So it's a good IPA, man. You got to do it.
No, it definitely is. And so how was that brewing experience? Is that the first time you did it, or did you ever do any home brewing?
I had never done any home brewing. I mean, God, if you're going to do it, go. Do it. Good night. Yeah, no, man. I saw them pouring in the hops and everything, and adding. It was quite the experience. And they had they kind of cooled everything really fast. I mean, it was amazing to watch the brewmaster kind of walk through it step by step, and then the canning process. They're just kind of like, jet infusion into those cans, like dropping it in, and then crisp and cold. So yeah, if you're in the area and you're looking to try a brew, check out that One Team One Fight. I think they mostly brewed through or sold all the original, so they're going to have to do a rebrewing here at some point. But
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I think when we talked with Joe and the rest of the team here, there was mention about doing something on an annual basis, just because it was such a success.
Yeah, well, the hops they even collected hops from an organization that that benefits veteran services. So I mean, they thought the whole thing through. So
awesome.
It was an honor to be a part of that, and those guys are awesome, man.
Yeah, we talked about it in the last episode, and we hope to talk to Matt coming up in a future episode here around that one of the main foundations that gets supported by that, which is 107 Foundation, which is a great organization tapped into veterans health in terms of really trying to expose some of the things that happen to veterans through exposure from burn pits or whatever the case may be. So it's really cool that you have organizations that are in the front end and the kind of tools, if you will, with the hops and stuff like that, then end up getting brewed for beers with a purpose, like we're talking about, and then benefit nonprofit organizations.
It's like an entire ecosystem, man.
It really is.
Absolutely.
And that's how it should be. We should be a lot more connected in terms of a lot of nonprofits. So how can we lift each other up and support one another in a way to, we all have all nonprofits out there. I say I'm not part of one, but we all want the same thing for veterans out there. And the more that we can find that kind of family camaraderie and stuff like that, I think it'd be great.
Absolutely.
So,
yes, that's a big part of who we are as well. We're part of a group called the Warrior Alliance, which is an Atlanta area group.
Great.
Yeah, they do a lot of convening of great organizations out there. I mean, gosh, they probably have now, I would guess 50 or more organizations that are part of their coalition. So yeah, man, we need more of that. Great organizations doing great stuff for vets. Let's work together. Let's not compete. It's too important for us to not figure this out. To support each other and to encourage each other. So yeah,
Jake,
man,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Rob.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
nice
guys.
meeting you.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, man. It was
Appreciate
awesome.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
So now we're joined by Chris here on Mentors4mil Military, and the cool thing is that Chris, you actually went through the program that Jake just started sharing, and told us about with Camp Southern Ground. So how did you get engaged with Camp Southern Ground and hear about in the first place to actually go through that program?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a drawn-out story, but my wife she wrote like a one-paragraph thing for another 501 out in Denver, Random Acts of Kindness. They picked that up. They wanted to do a little story on us. So what they did is they put our kids in summer camp at Camp Southern Ground.
Okay. Do that family program.
It was kids camp.
Okay.
So the 2 months in the summer for kids camp, they went out to that. They followed the kids around. They came back and they talked to us. And on the last day, when we picked the kids up, they said, "We got someone we want you to meet." Okay. And they kept it all secret, and they showed up, and out walks this handsome dude with, my son calls him robot legs, Joey Jones.
Yeah.
Another jarhead. And I sat and talked to him for probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then he said, "Hey, we're about to kick off Warrior Week, one of our veteran programs, actually the veteran program at that time. You want to come?" Yeah, sure. Went back home. I was living in Tennessee at the time. And got everything together, got down there, and went through Warrior Week. It was great. And it's only gotten better as it's gone along. So.
Yeah. Why was that so special for you? When you went through that program, what did you take away from it, I guess?
Yeah, well, the Warrior Week really is, if I have to put it into the best way to describe it really is, if you think about it, most of us join the military when we're 17, sometimes 18, 19, 20 years old. At that point in time, our prefrontal cortexes are not fully formed.
Yeah, we're not even a human until 25.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Some later.
We're not even fully developed human beings at the time.
Yeah.
And we're learning to be soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. So that becomes your identity.
Yes.
Even if it's 4 years or 20 years or 30 years, that becomes your identity. And it really does.
Yeah.
To drive that point home, I was medically retired at 17 years. I retired on a Thursday and I went to work on a Friday. I spent literally 30 minutes looking at 3 outfits, the only civilian outfits I had, trying to figure out what I should wear to work that day.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I had no idea. And so it's, you know, we talk a lot about loss of purpose,
Yep.
loss of sense of value, this, that, and everything. But really, I really don't know who I am outside of that uniform. So through Clifton Strengths and Enneagram assessment for personality, I was able to figure out, like, some of these things are not just what the VA is telling me, symptoms of PTS, TBI, what have you. That's actually part of my personality, or it's one of my strengths showing through. So I went home with that.
What do you Enneagram as? What number are you?
Oh,
You gotta ask. If you're gonna bring it up, you gotta ask, man.
I bet you.
What?
I just took it out of my wallet the other day. My wife actually runs Warrior Week now.
Okay.
She makes little business cards for everybody to take
Like,
home.
I'm a 6. I'm a
It
6
has your
shade 7.
Enneagram as your top 10
These are the things I
strengths.
hate, and these are the things I love. Absolutely,
Right.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
I want to say I'm a 4, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
All right, so you brought it up. What are you, Kyle?
I'm a 6. I did mine the other day. It was the third result I got that was different.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, as in the healing process or whatever. So now I'm a 6 shade 7, I think.
Yeah.
But I started out as maybe an 8 or a 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big shift.
I don't know what they're talking
I don't know
about.
what this is. What is it?
It's crazy.
What is it called?
Like he's talking about it. It's the Enneagram.
Enneagram. Yeah.
Enneagram?
Yeah. It's a
So-
personality.
The personality
Okay.
test, like a
it's
disc
like
assessment.
like a
Yes.
Myers-Briggs thing?
Yeah,
yes.
but way better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, far
Okay.
more in depth.
Yeah.
You know, my wife had done it when she was in college.
Yeah.
And she came out as a 2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was married to a guy at that point in time that wasn't treating her right. She was actually showing up as a 2, but she was only showing up as a 2 primary.
Yeah.
Because she was in the spot where
She had to
her
be a
actual
2.
personality
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
when she's in struggle.
All right, you're going to have to describe this 2-4-6.
Okay, well, we can do that offline, but it's basically a personality profile of a 2, or 1 through 9 or whatever it is. And
Okay,
it's
so
all
that's
9
the
different
general
personality
scale.
traits.
Oh, okay.
And you can only be 2 things if you're next to it. So you can only be a shade 7, 8, or 6, not like a 7 shade 2.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're on this spectrum of personality. I don't know which way is more rigid or the other, but it's a fantastic way to learn something about yourself if you got 30 minutes to take the test and then read the assessment.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, holy shit.
Yeah. Who's been reading my diary?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
And so,
we both
so
said
you
this
were exposed
together.
to this your first week, your first Warrior Week. That's part of the program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Always has been. I think that's one of the foundational pieces.
Okay.
Some things have come and gone throughout the rest of the course. Those 2 things have remained.
The thing that you don't have, though, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you don't have a baseline maybe of what that was prior. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do that before you go into...
When you sign up for selected service at the DMV, you should have to
Something.
take an Enneagram right there.
Right. So that way you have a baseline that says, yes, you are different, but look where you changed, how, and it would be more impactful, I think, at that point, because, yes, we may be a different person, but why or how?
Yeah.
And, diving into that aspect of it.
Yeah. Like, well, right now in the military, everybody does their aptitude test.
Yeah, the ASVAB.
And then, we know how smart you are
Right.
based on this test. What do you want to do? Well, I want to be infantry. But you scored really high. You could be aviation or whatever. Well, why don't you do the Enneagram instead?
Right.
And then we can tell you what jobs fit your personality,
Profile.
strengths.
Right.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with that more. I think like if we just spend a little more time on the recruiting process and not just determining the personality, but I mean I had to take I don't remember what the personality test is, but you have to take one to go to sniper school.
Oh,
they got to
yes.
make sure you're not a sociopath
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
You know, why are we waiting until I'm going to sniper school? I mean, I already deployed so
Exactly.
many times, and not just that, but like, let's learn a little bit about this. Like, if you're a guy from foster care, both your parents are gone or in jail, you have no immediate family, no extended family, your whole family is going to be the military. Well, we could make sure that the resources that are available to you are more apparent or right in front of you, or encourage you to go as you go through this process in the military. If we knew that from the get-go, instead, you know, guys like that probably at the most at risk, and we recruit from the lowest segment of the population, you know, the people that are most likely to commit suicide, whether or not they were in military service.
Yeah.
That's typically where we recruit from.
Absolutely.
And then they get out and they have no support network. They don't know how to make a support network because they never had one, you know, so we could shortcut a lot of this. People always ask me, like, how do you stop veteran suicide? I'm like, well, for my generation, for the GWAT generation, maybe you don't ever get it down to zero, but if we start at recruiting, then that number will gradually go down because we can identify certain people, and that may not be a bar to service, but it means like, okay, you know, you came from this sort of background, you have this kind of personality, you're going to be required to go to certain services more than somebody else.
Yeah, you know, and it's something that we can do
Tailor it.
on the front end, but it's like Warrior Week itself is also, I'll put it in words that a lot of people have used in front of me. This is TAMPs. I forget what the Army calls their out processing.
The transition assist. No,
TAC-P, transitional assistant. No.
No, that's not what it's called. It's the Army Alumni.
ACAP?
ACAP.
ACAP.
No, but it was something.
ACRAP.
I thought they changed the name of it.
did.
It used
They
to
changed the name.
Marine Corps does it all the
when
time,
we
too.
went through, it was ACAP, but now it's
Well,
called. There was
I
the
went through with something different.
right. It's called. Starts with a T,
Yeah.
and somebody's going to text us and go, "Guys, you don't know this."
Yeah.
Well,
Was it Soldier for Life?
no, that's something totally different.
Okay.
Anyway, we get you. If they could do some of these things, I think that would be very helpful. Those programs, to me, don't do a very good job, really, of transitioning people, because most of them, that I've experienced or had friends who went through them would share the same thing, that the people who are leading them are individuals who never worked on the private sector, and they're standing up and trying to tell you how to transition, but they probably haven't really properly transitioned themselves. And it's a broke system that probably, like many other government programs that are purchased out there by the government, needs revamping.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's ever been revisited in its 40 years of existence.
It certainly
And-
has.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
And
That's
they've
good to
added
hear.
things. They've added, and I'll say this because we're kind of shitting on that program, but like they added the resilience training, the master resilience training, and I gotta say, like I use that very frequently. The stuff
Yeah.
that I learned in that. Other than that, I mean, yeah, you have an Army spouse that's telling you how to write a resume. It's like you have a part-time job on base. Like,
Right.
why are you telling me how to write a resume?
Yeah.
And you're,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and your
and
commander
it's-
can't really tell you how to do it because he's been in the
Exactly.
You know, and your
Right.
sergeant
But
major,
the-
like,
but
you've
I'm
been
s-
here for 20 years. When was the last time you wrote a resume?
I'm seeing one-page resumes, though. That's what you do when you come out of high school or college and you don't have a job.
Sure.
You know, you got to tell me a little bit more as an employer. I'm going to take about 30 seconds or less to look at your resume, and if it doesn't pop out, it goes into the pile.
Right.
Not the good pile. So, you know, you've got to have enough substance on there for me to grab, and you start telling me stuff that you managed enemy combatants and put them into, I don't know what the heck that means when it relates to the private
eyes
sector.
glass over with
That's
one
what I'm
thing
saying.
you did for me that was so well that Rob, when I got out, tailored my resume.
That's only because I knew you. I don't
gave
offer
him-
that service to
yeah,
everybody.
He doesn't offer that service to everybody.
So if you need a resume, it's info at Mentors4mil.
But he absolutely crushed it. He took all the Army E's, turned it into business E's,
Yeah.
and then it was just get it out there, and someone saw it,
Right.
bam.
Yeah. And I absolutely don't mean to poo-poo on any branch's transition system.
Sure.
They're not garbage. They're doing what they know to do.
Agreed. I feel the same way. Just for
The
disclaimer.
the thing that I usually tell a lot of veterans is they spent, Marine Corps, they spent 3 months training you and they spent a week processing
Yes.
you
Oh, yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So it bears revisiting again, probably.
That's what I meant.
Across the DoD.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think like we have to instill the expectation in the service member. Like you're going to have services available when you transition through whatever your alumni program for that service is. But like it needs to be, you're a man or a woman, you're an adult, you're in charge of stuff. But you need to start planning ahead.
Yeah.
You know, if you're 18 months out and you don't have a plan together, like you need to buckle down, and that needs to be your primary focus in your free
but nobody
time.
thinks of transition until it's time to transition. Let's be real. I've had a bunch of people say, why don't we talk about transition on the podcast? And the reality is when you were 18, 19, 20, 21, or whatever year you are, I don't care where you are, you're not going to want to listen to how difficult it's going to be on the outside and what you need to do to prepare. You're just not. Because you think you got it all figured out.
Yep.
Until you do get out here and you go, geez, I wish somebody would have told me, you know. But, you know, that's the experience that we end up going through. But this kind of program that you're talking about here is one of those that helps them figure that, I guess, that side out and mentally of where you are, who you are, you know, take that and use that as a strength finder to match that with, you know, personality to job to family to relationships and all those types of things. It sounds like that's really important.
Yeah, it's huge, and the thing is that I want to really stress is we're not stressing going into the workforce, because not every veteran is looking to go to work.
Right.
Not every veteran can go back to work.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we are stressing purpose. Have a purpose for your day, or you're just wandering.
Yeah.
You'll be floundering, and if you're floundering, then you're susceptible to becoming one of the 22, drowning yourself in your sorrows and what have you. You know, so now having been through that through Warrior Week, that was the open spot, and I was a hermit. I was either in my room with a migraine for days on end, or in my recliner in my house, sucking down every bit of alcohol I could get in the house.
Yeah.
And that's all I did for probably the first 2 years I was retired.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So you're alive, but you're not really living.
No, you know, and years on down the road, you know, I think we'll talk about path in a little bit here. Is I figured some of that alcohol business out.
Yeah.
But,
Good transition time. So let's talk about PATH and what the difference is from what you experienced in Warrior Week to then when you went through PATH.
Yeah. How long is PATH to start? I'm curious.
path starts with 7 days.
Okay.
It's kind of the initiation phase. It's a 90-day program now. It used to be 18 months when I went through, but it's contact time. You know, these veterans that come through PATH, before they even get there, they understand that it's 7 days. Don't quote me on this, but 75 hours of contact time with the guides.
Oh wow.
Over those 7 days, and that you got to take into account that day one is only a half a day because they're arriving, and the last day they're leaving on the bus by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So it's 75 hours basically in 5 days. Yeah. You're all up in there.
Yeah, you know, and it gets all up in the fields and all that good stuff.
So who are you in contact with? Like what kind of people are they? You've got guides. Are you doing mental health? With
so it's while you're there, it's PATH guides and one TM instructor. Transcendental meditation is something that we teach. It's one of the things that I can say out there. The rest of PATH, like the schedule and things like that, in the modules, we don't like to say out loud.
Okay.
Because the entire goal is to have you there and be where your feet are.
Right.
Okay.
Being in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have a schedule,
Not-
you're looking. I just found a quote a couple of days ago, and it hit me hard. No amount of regret can change the past. No amount of anxiety can change the future.
That's
Be where your feet are.
Yeah.
You know, live in that. So the big thing about PATH is, I think Jake hit on it earlier, is if you ask everybody what PTS is, or you add the D on the end, because we still haven't fully turned over to just PTS, but PTS, PTSD, you ask people, do you know that term? Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say 95% of the population of America knows what that is. And then ask them if they know what PTG is. Well,
Post-traumatic growth. I remember.
Right. See, but today might be the first time a lot of people have heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they know the bad, but they don't know the way out or the way ahead.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what we're really doing is our catchphrase is really turning struggle into strength. But the thing is, to put it in layman's terms, it's nothing that's easy is ever worth it. If you put the work in to the practices, not tools for the toolbox. These are practices that we're giving them in that week. And they go home and they use them. They are going to be better people. They are going to feel better. They're going to interact better.
Sounds like a challenge and a way to live your life.
It is. I mean, it completely changed mine.
Wow.
I think I had quit drinking. It's just a rollback real quick is, 5 years I was suicidal. I attempted it multiple times. And drinking, now that I look back on it, I was drinking on so many drugs, like prescribed drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I should have died several times. And I think in the back of my mind, subconsciously, that's really what my goal was. The power statement here is that the last time I tried to kill myself was the day before I went to PATH.
Wow.
And I'm now a PATH guide.
I was going to say, so what's your involvement now with Camp Southern Ground?
Yeah.
Is you're a PATH guide?
Yeah, I'm a PATH guide.
Okay.
I lend a hand anywhere I can on camp. I tell a lot of people I am a product of the veterans programs at Camp Southern Ground. I know that PATH belongs to Boulder Crest, but I went through it at Camp Southern Ground. And I'm a success story.
Wow.
I'm still alive.
Inspirational.
I'm 120 pounds lighter than I was before I went to PATH.
Holy smokes.
Physically?
Yes.
And sober.
And sober.
Congratulations,
100 and-
man.
I just
That's another
passed
body.
4 years sober.
That's like a
Congratulations,
middle
man.
school kid.
That's freaking awesome.
That's a grown woman that you've lost. Wow.
Yeah, I was 328 pounds when I went to PATH.
Wow.
I run around at about 200 right now.
Wow.
It fluctuates a little bit,
Now,
especially
you
during the holidays.
helping to get off. Did that help get off the prescription medications as well?
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that helps slim you down some too as well. Once you get
Yes.
that polypharmacy out of you and you get to start
Lord.
eating cleaner and
Yeah. I titrated off a lot of them. Some of them I was able to just come off.
yeah.
I full transparency, I still take anti-anxiety meds, but not near what I was taking when I
Right.
started.
Yeah.
Well, they have their place, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but it sounds like if someone's out there and I think weight gain's a big one because it's self-image. It's how you feel every day. That can contribute to so much of what's going on in your negative mental situation. But then being able to get off the drugs and maybe get to a place where you're using less or you're off them completely. That sounds like a pretty amazing program.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I could see it and feel it. That one of the funny things is when I got home from PATH, I turned around and probably 2 or 3 days after I got home, and I got out of the shower and turned around and looked at my wife and I said, "Why the hell didn't you tell me I was so damn fat?" She's like, "You take a shower every day and you look in the same doggone mirror."
Yeah.
I wasn't in the space where I could see that negative.
So how do you go to Warrior Week, or how do you get into the PATH program? What's the pipeline? Do you reach out by a website or?
Yeah, you can go straight through Boulder Crest website, and you can go through at Boulder Crest. There is about to be 10 solid sites Texas is building right now. And there's a mobile team that goes out and picks up the ones that we can't get to hard sites. You can go to Camp Southern Ground's website. We have direct links for our veteran programs, Warrior Week and Warrior PATH. If you go through Camp Southern Ground, I can only speak to Camp Southern Ground because that's where I work. Within 24 hours of putting in an information request, you will be contacted. And then they'll push out whichever program you're going to. They'll push out the application for that program. and then you're in contact the entire time. Like for instance, Warrior Week. If you don't like my wife, don't go to Warrior Week. You have to be. She will be in contact with you for 12 months.
Wow.
A little bit more, because she's going to talk to you for up to a month prior to you coming to your cohort.
Is it about? It's about a month to get into one of the cohorts, depending on time of year, I'd imagine.
Like right now, we're looking. I think our target goal per cohort is 18, and it's January, so people are dropping off. Like, oh man, like work won't let me off. It's right after the holidays, whatever. We got it out. Like we're throwing it out right now. Like, hey, if you can come, like it's down to the wire, but we will get this stuff out to you so you can do the strengths and Enneagram, and we will get you a flight and get you in here.
Okay.
So
I like that fast turnaround and the good connection.
It is. That's one thing about both programs is we don't really get out there and pay for advertising.
Yeah.
It's word of mouth. Because if we went out there and we paid for advertising and we just become another veteran service organization that's got a line hanging way back and we can't serve anyone. So, does it keep us on our toes? Like, oh, we got to find somebody to fill these programs? Sometimes. That happens. Do guys back out sometimes and gals? Sure. Yeah. Things happen at home. They get a little bit nervous and they back out. But such is life. We continue pressing the mission, and that is, to highlight these strengths that everybody has within them. They just don't know. Until they know.
Well, Chris, I look forward to us coming out there and getting a chance to see a little bit more about Camp Southern Ground and really giving you a chance to show us around and see what it's all about. And appreciate you coming on the show, man, not only talking about your personal journey, but, also what this has done for you in your life and everything. And it's an amazing story. So thank you for taking time out to really come and enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you all.
I appreciate it, Chris.
Chris, it was awesome meeting you.
Appreciate it, guys.